Hey everybody, welcome to another GMG review. Today we're taking a look at the General's Handbook. It's the Pitch Battles 2022-2023 Season 2. We're doing this in a whole new way because today I'm actually going to be reviewing a digital preview that I was sent as opposed to a physical rulebook. So this is what we're going to do. This is the way it's happening today. So yeah, there we go. I do have my copy of Pitch Battles 2022-2023. Oh God, with all my battle tactics falling out of them from Season 1 to go through because there is a bunch of overlap here between the two books, and I thought it would be useful to basically go through what's changed, what's new, and what's different. So first things first, we'll give you the short story long, the long story short. The focus is shifted from battle line units to small heroes. So as they've kind of been like alluding to over the last couple weeks in Warhammer community, the main sort of like thrust of this one is heroes with a wound characteristic of 9 or less. Now that's a change from the previous book where it was all like core battle line units with a wound characteristic of, I think it's 4 or less. And instead we're going on to like heroic actions and heroes, which is a bit more manageable, to be honest with you. Pretty much every army has those heroes, and having them be a feature kind of forces you to take them a little bit more. It also puts a lot of key focus on the new core battalions because the sworn sort of like bodyguards of these minor heroes become really important. They have certain benefits like making you untargetable if you're within an inch of them with attacks, which is kind of a huge deal. And the sort of like the battle tactics and the grand strategies can revolve around them as well. So really encouraging you into taking a certain type of unit. Now, the one thing I'm still disappointed by, and I can't comment on, or I will comment on, is that 1,500 point limit that was in the 3rd edition rulebook that I got so excited about, that's still not here. It's 1,000 or 2,000 points. So playing a pitch battle, basically step by step, we'll go through real fast. Not a lot of changes here. Points limits 1,000 or 2,000. Leader units 1 to 3 and 1,000, 1 to 6 and 2,000. Still 2+ or 3+ battle line units, up to 2 behemoths in 1,000, 4 in 2,000. Artillery's 2 or 4, 2 or 4 for endless spells and invocations, 2 or 4 reinforced units, and then up to 200 points of allies in 1,400 in full. So same exact stuff, same recommended number of features, and still played on a 44 by 60 table. You pick a faction. All your units must be from a single faction. You have your battlefield roles, and all that stuff's basically the same. Grand strategies are basically the same. In fact, a lot of what's in here is not that different from Season 1. Now, the battle plans themselves, and this is where I wanted to actually get into, start doing some comparisons. There are a few new ones, and there's a few that are actually back from Season 1. So the Prize of Galletian is still in here. Realmstone Cache, the exploding central objective, is still in there. Battle lines drawn, where the table quarters, all kinds of objectives is still in there. The lurkers below, in the presence of the idols, the Nidus paths, only the worthy has been replaced though on table 2 with the mighty and the mighty and the cunning on section 2 has been replaced by only the worthy. Head-on collisions replaced by Path of the Champion. Won't back down with the Jaws of Galletian. The silk steel nests with hours for the taking. Close the chest, close to the chest with twists and turns, and then turf war is replaced with position over power. So fully all of table 2 basically has been replaced. So of the 12 previous missions, now we've got 6 new ones in this season, and that seems to be like they're replacing a table at a time. I'm just inferring from this, but I feel like maybe in Season 3, table 1 will change and table 2 will stay the same. Although the table 1 missions, for the most part, feel fairly balanced and like they are good core missions. Like, I actually really like the Prize of Galletian. The Battle Lines Drawn is one of my favorite ones, and I'm kind of excited that they're all still there because they are fairly balanced ones. I haven't noticed any real changes in faction terrain or realm rules, of course, are new because we're into kind of a new area in the Gnarlwood. And apart from that, sort of like new name scenarios, we'll go through them in a minute. The region of wars, the realm rules, is the biggest sort of change for Season 2. So let's dive in and talk about that. So Region of War, Galletian in Season 2. The following realm rules continue to explore what it's like to fight in the hellish environments of Galletian, which is now underground. In the grim conditions, those leaders who stand shoulder to shoulder with their comrades will rise to the fore, anchoring the battle lines and ensuring victory achieved at all costs. So I'm going to say Galletian, because I think that's how it's pronounced, but these are made up Warhammer words, so who knows. Galletian Champions. They are heroes with a wound characteristic of less than 10, so 9 or less, like I said earlier, that do not have a mount and that are not unique, and they gain the Galletian Champions keyword. They have the following ability, the key to victory. Friendly Galletian Champions cannot be picked as a target of attacks made with missile weapons while they're within 1 inch of any friendly battle line unit. So not just like the disruption of minus to hit, but just full-on friendly battle line, keep you from getting shot. And then Desperate Action. If you are taking the second turn in the current battle round at the start of your hero phase, you can pick a friendly Galletian Champion on the battlefield to carry out 2 heroic actions instead of 1. So you could, best day ever, you know, the... what is it? Something, whatever the +1 to wound / +1 save is. I don't know if we've called it best day ever now so much that I can't remember what it's actually called. Oh, crap. Moment of glory, or like have your moment. Oh, I literally have the rules in front of me. Never mind. It's no, that's that rules reference. I literally have this in front of me for this reason. It's not called best day ever, Ash. It's called those are heroic. Those aren't heroic actions. Those are monstrous actions. Oh my god, I'm the worst. I'm actually the worst here that I can't remember this. We do this all the time. We come up with like acronyms or like fun names for everything, and then I literally cannot remember the real Warhammer name for things. Heroic actions. Here we go. Heroic recovery. Their finest hour. We call it best day ever. Oh my god, why is that so hard to remember? So yeah, so if you're going second, the bonus prize basically is you get 2 instead of 1. And they can do it 2 instead of a single one. So you could like make a CP with heroic leadership, and then also have their finest hour, or you could heroic recovery if you're outside of range, and then their finest hour, whatever you want to do. But there's 2 new heroic actions for this season. The first one's strike at the opening. This one's kind of complicated, but I think kind of cool. Pick 1 friendly Galletian champion unit within 3 inches of the enemy. That hero can fight if it has not already fought in that phase. So if it hasn't already fought in the hero phase for some other rule, so no like using Marathi's like blender ability basically, and then also using this. However, that hero cannot fight again in that phase, so no using, again, the blender rule, do it again afterwards. And the strike last effect applies to that hero until the end of the turn. So you're going to go last in the combat phase, but you end up fighting twice, and you'll fight once in the hero phase with that action. That's going to be pretty cool. And then lead by example. Pick 1 friendly Galletian champion that has the sworn bodyguard unit, and that has just carried the strike at the opening heroic action. If that sworn bodyguard unit is wholly within 6 of the Galletian champion, within 3 of an enemy unit, that sworn bodyguard can then fight. So if you take one of the core battalions that lets you fight, or that lets you have their core battalion abilities, which we'll talk about later, they basically can use that. If you're going second, the hero and that unit immediately fights in the shooting phase, and they're both strike last, and they'll fight last in the combat phase, but get to fight twice per turn. So I don't see any wound restriction either. It's just, they have to be a sworn bodyguard unit, and they have to be in range. And I can't remember if there's a wound restriction or something like that, but you can have some pretty big battle line units go and fight right after that guy goes. I can see that 1-2 of going second being pretty amazing because, yeah, you're going second, and yeah, your opponent's going to charge you, but it kind of does offset the double round. If you get double rounded all of a sudden, and you've got a little baby hero in combat, and their bodyguard units nearby, they can just go and alpha strike. So you get a whole extra round of combat out of a unit before they get dumpstered by, let's say, getting to pick the fight first and doing charges during the double round. So I kind of like that. It feels like a double round band-aid a little bit, or maybe like a reaction to getting double rounded. And of course, a reaction to people maybe not taking as many baby heroes as possible. This game tends to revolve right now around big, killy named characters a lot, and like, that's fine. I'd be excited to see some of my smaller heroes have a role. I like my Stormcast Eternal version of me. And he's got less than 9 wounds, so it'd be cool to see him on the table and actually get to do some more stuff. Lead a big fat unit of Vindictors into combat and have them stab spear stuff all the time. And then explode, and then stab spear again. So that's the heroic stuff. Then we got Realm Sphere Magic, so the new spell everybody gets. This one's kind of bonkers. Cast on 6, range 12 inches, pick a visible objective within range, then roll a dice for each unit within 6. So everybody that's contesting it, on a 4+, they take D6 mortal wounds. So if your opponent has parked like 6 units on an objective, on a 6+, just be like, the objective eats you. And it goes, brah, brah, brah. It's like the mob. But D6 mortal wounds, like I thought D3, a D6 is swingy, but that's a big spike, particularly, especially if a hero staying on an objective. holy crap, I could just one-shot some baby heroes that are like 5 or less wounds, right? So kind of a bonkers spell, very damagey, and also force multiplied by the fact that if multiple units are within range of it, then half the time they take d6 mortal wounds. Then the realm command for this season is no retreat, no surrender. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase. The unit that receives the command must be a friendly unit that's not a hero or a monster, so again, not giant units. That did not charge in the same turn, that's within 3 of the enemy, someone in an ongoing fight. That unit cannot make pile-in moves that phase, but gets +1 to their attack characteristic of melee weapons used by that unit until the end of the phase, excluding those of its mounts if it has any. So if you're stuck in a protracted fight, that command basically allows you to boost up that unit's fighting ability for a turn and try and get them out of it. It feels like the intention of that. So you can't have already charged, you have to be in an ongoing combat, and then you can kind of jack them up to try and like fight their way out of it. So that's the first half of it. Now we're into the core battalions. So definitions of unit icons. Galletian Champions is one unit icon, and then infantry is the other one. So units with a wound characteristic of 4 or less that's not a leader, artillery, behemoth, and doesn't have mounts. So no getting your eels on this, right? No like getting your flying bugs or your what are they called? The whatever the big auric mounted dudes are. And there's 3 rather. There's Galletian Command, and that's united in purpose. So it's 1 Galletian hero or Galletian champion, so a hero with 9 wounds or less, and then 1 infantry unit. So it doesn't have to be battle line, just any infantry, 4 wounds or less. My ogres are going to love this season. United in purpose, the infantry unit in this battalion is the sworn bodyguard of the Galletian champion. Now, weirdly, there's no sworn bodyguard keyword. It just says they are. I thought they'd gain that keyword just to make it simple. In the combat phase, when you pick the Galletian champion in this bodyguard to fight for the first time that phase, if the sworn bodyguard of the battalion is wholly within 6 of the Galletian champion and hasn't fought yet, they fight immediately afterwards. And they fight one after the other in the order of your choice. So basically for all intents and purposes, the character joins the unit. Does that make sense? Like almost like an old Warhammer character. If you're within an inch of someone in that unit and they're your bodyguard, first of all, they can't, and their battle line, they can't shoot you, and you guys fight one after the other and you tag team your fighting. So it's actually going to be pretty handy, I think, to build out these like kind of stabby heroes, because most of like the 9 wound or less heroes are relatively inexpensive, and they're all doing 4 to 6 like damage to attacks, usually 3s and 3s -1, right? So there's a bunch, and that's almost pretty common across the factions. Like there's very few heroes in that price range or wound range that don't have that kind of like core style line, unless they're like a wizard or a priest or they do something kind of specialty. But most of like the leadership style heroes kind of have that style line. That's a big force multiplier for not a lot of points that you can't now pick out and kill if they're battle line. So I can see that Galletian Command being kind of handy. And then there's Galletian Sharpshooters and Galletian Veterans. So the Galletian Sharpshooters is focus on your mark. Attacks made with missile weapons by units in the battalion are not prevented from targeting enemy Galletian champions that are within 1 of battle line units. So you can take a shooting unit now to counteract the previous rule, which kind of feels off-brand, but it requires you to take 3 infantry units with guns if they have missile weapons, because otherwise you don't get to benefit from this rule. So as long as it's 3 infantry, I guess you could just like lump all of your infantry into one of these, and then have one of those units be shooters and have them hunt down the champions, the other units. And then the second one is Galletian Veterans, 2 infantry minimum, maximum of 4. They get the rule from last season. So when a model in this battalion makes an attack with a melee weapon, you can target an enemy within a ½ inch of another model from the attacking unit instead of using the weapon's range characteristic. So basically you get that like rock throw from 40k if you're inside the Galletian Veteran unit, which is just a knock-on of the last sort of like season's like core rule for the battle line units. But no longer restricted to battle line. This is just any infantry that are 4 wounds or less, right? And don't have a mount, and don't have any of that extra stuff. So I quite like that. I quite like that as a core battalion, they rolled over the last special rule, because it means that you don't lose everything you kind of built your army around last season. There's still a way to get it just by taking core battalion. Now, interestingly, these core battalions are kind of integral to the experience of some of the missions here too, and especially to like the battle tactics and the actual the grand strategies. So the fact that there's no unified drop in here too kind of puts a bunch of downforce on spamming unified drop or just taking like battle regiments to make it so that you get to go first or choose the turn order and try and go for that double round. And even the heroic action there kind of then prevents the double round thing from even being as big a deal, really. I guess you can still dictate the thing, the flow of the battlefield. And then we got 3 unique artifacts and 3 unique enhancements. Sorry, 4 unique enhancements. And so these can be taken by anybody during this season, but only by the Galletian Champions in the army. So you basically, through your general, you'll get the enhancement for the, it's like a command trait. Actually, I think it's just an enhancement. It doesn't even say command trait. So it's just an enhancement you can take for those 9 wound or less characters. So don't look these to be put on like, no Maw Crusher's getting this stuff, right? No Eidolon of Mathland's getting this stuff. It's just these baby heroes that we're having the spotlight kind of shown on for this season. So the relics, the artifacts, there's the Tusk Helm. After the bearer makes a charge move, pick an enemy unit within an inch and roll a number of dice equal to the modified charge roll for every 4+2 mortal wound. Sure, just be an ogre monster. That one's going to be real popular. I don't actually see that one not being taken every time, because charge roll mortal wounds is my jam. Now, one thing it does say at the end though is if you have a built-in effect or ability that lets you do this already, you don't get to do it twice. You have to pick which one to use. So I can't double dip Tusk Helm, my big named ogre tyrant, and do basically double my charge roll in 4+ mortal wounds. They saw me coming and they took it out. I appreciate that about them. Why would they say something so correct? I'm not happy about it, but I see why they did it. The Night Flyer Cloak is the second one. During deployment, instead of setting up the bearer in the battlefield, place them aside. They can be set up in ambush as a reserve unit. At the end of your movement, you can place them within an inch of a friendly battle line unit and more than 9 from enemy units. So basically, you're kind of like an old Warhammer assassin. You pop up next to a battle line unit and more than 9 from the enemy. And then this is going to be a big one, the Griff Feather Charm, 5+ wards back. So the old Sea Rebirth, I can't remember whichever one it was, that the pendant that gave you that in the original core rulebook. It's back in Griff Feather Charm form. But remember, all this is the 9 wound or less guys instead of anybody else. And then we have the unique enhancements. So Tunnel Master, once per battle, instead of picking this Galletian Champion to make a normal move, you can move from the battlefield and set it up again in the battlefield more than 9. So you just you pocket sand and you bamf over away like Nightcrawler. Fueled by Gurish Rage. Once per battle, before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this Galletian Champion, and that wound or mortal wound would cause it to be slain, you can roll a dice. On a 3+, that wound or mortal wound is negated, and you heal up to D3 wounds allocated to it, and any wounds that remain on it that are allocated are then negated. So you come back with D3 wounds left on a 3+. When you get low wound characters, that's actually kind of awesome. I like that you ultimate warrior, you go and you power up from the ropes, and then you come back and you fight again. Stubborn is a Rhinox. This Galletian Champion counts as 10 models for contesting objectives, while there are no enemy Galletian Champions contesting the same objective. So as long as you've killed whoever the other champion is, or they're not there, you count as 10 dudes. You can hold it by yourself. And then Leadership of the Alpha. Once per battle, this Galletian Champion can issue one of the following commands up to 3 times in the same phase. Or all at attack, all at defense, or redeploy. If it does so, no command point is spent the second and third times. So for 1 CP, you issue it 3 times during the same phase. That one's real good too. That one's really good. I feel like Leadership of the Alpha and the Tusk Helm are fantastic. Although Fueled by Gurish Rage could be cool too for like a low wound hero. Anyway, I like them all. I like all these enhancements. I like that they're dedicated just to the special hero who gets the spotlight in this. So you can't really like abuse them, although I'm sure there will be some corner cases where there's some characters this is way too good on, because that's just the nature of Warhammer. But overall, yeah, what a cool like bonus basically for this season. All right, grand strategies. We've got a 6-pack basically, and of course you can be taken in addition to your own army ones if you want. So like instead of basically, so not in addition to, but you can. This is a list that's in addition to the one you could pick from your army book. You Tame the Land. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you control all the objectives in the battlefield that are wholly outside your territory. Defend what's ours. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there's no enemy units wholly within your territory. Take what's theirs. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there's more friendly than enemy units wholly within enemy territory. Stake a claim. And actually, Sarah, I'm going to talk about those 3 first of all. I like those 3. They're not mechanically tied to this season or like any of that leadership stuff, but they're a great 3-pack of things you could choose based on how your army plays, if that makes sense. If you're like a numbers army and you're trying to flood, then take what's there as you complete this grand strategy. If it's more friendly than enemy units wholly within enemy territory, that plays into your army style, if that makes sense. Defend what's ours if you're like a shooting army that moves around a lot and like pushes people away or has like a bunch of like maybe built-in scenery like Sylvaneth to try and keep people out of your territory. That's again, it plays to the theme and it rewards you with 3 VPs at the end. And then same with Tame the Land, going and taking if you're like a conquesty kind of army that marches out, like let's say like a storm host that like is dropping in, doing Signs of the Storm, or you're one of these aggressive armies like maybe the whatchamacallit, the Idoneth Deepkin, right, where you're fast-moving eels, fast-moving like Nomardi units, and then big monster heroes like the turtle and stuff. They're going to go out and punch into the other objectives. They don't have a lot that sits around and waits. So I like those 3, especially because you could just pick them based on your army style, and the way that you play normally will play into that grand strategy, and if you're successful, will just reward you kind of automatically. It feels good to be able to pick one that's kind of a no-brainer, because it's just going to happen the way you play your army anyway, sort of stylistically. Now there's the ones that kind of play into this season. Stake a Claim. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy of 3 or more friendly Galletian Champions are wholly within enemy territory, so a bit dicey. They have to all survive. They all have low wound counts. I'm not sure about that one. Survivor's Instinct. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if the model picked to be your general is a Galletian Champion, and that model is contesting an objective wholly outside your territory. And the Day is Ours. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there's more friendly Galletian Champions from your starting army than Galletian Champions from your opponent's starting army on the battlefield. So the last one feels like the one that is probably the best because it still just ties into how you play the game. Kill more of theirs than you kill of yours, and focus on those units that are the Galletian Champions. But the first 3 feel like they're the kind of like the easiest to sort of parse based on just what your army style is. You know what you're going to be doing no matter what. Stake a Claim is probably the one I'd rank the lowest because like you got to stay alive with at least 3 guys. But if you're playing into this season, you could just take all 6 baby heroes and have them all lead battle line units and see how it goes. That's my plan for this is like, my Stormcast is going like almost MSU. Everybody's getting a bodyguard. Everybody's getting like a unit to like run around with and be sworn with, and they can all just double fight and stuff, and I'll lean into the mechanic and see how it goes. And then we have our battle tactics, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I think most of them are kind of repeated from last season. There's not a lot. There was a couple that were new, or like variations, but they're fairly consistent with the previous season, which I think is good because people have to get used to doing battle tactics because you pick them round by round. So Gaining Momentum, still in there. Desecrate Their Land, still in there. Eye for an Eye, still in there. This One's Mine, still in there. Now Head-to-Head's been replaced by a Matter of Honor. So it was, pick an enemy Galletian Veterans unit on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if the unit's destroyed during its turn by an attack made by Galletian Veterans. This is the same thing, just with champions instead. So if a champion kills another enemy champion, so pick an enemy champion or Sworn Bodyguard unit on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if the unit's destroyed this turn by attack made by a Galletian Champion or Sworn Bodyguard. So just re-themed for the season, basically. Lead the Assault replaces Outmuscle. So in this one, it's you complete this battle tactic if at least 2 of the objectives you control are enemy territory and are contested by a friendly Galletian Champion. So if you've like gone in there and taken them. United Offense, pick an objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this battle tactic if you control an objective with 2 or more friendly Galletian Champions. They're contesting the objective at the end of the turn, so if your baby heroes go out and take something, at least 2 of them. And that's getting against the odds. And then Cunning Maneuver is going to replace Barge through enemy lines. Pick 1 friendly Galletian Champion on the battlefield. That's more than 3 from all enemy units. You complete this battle tactic if at the end of the turn, that Galletian Champion unit's more than 3 from all enemy units and is contesting an objective that is wholly outside your territory. So if you go sneak over and grab something. And again, there's a couple of those enhancements, like the BAMF one, that would be really good for doing that in the first turn with Cunning Maneuver. And then this next part I really like. I don't know if this was in the last season. No, it wasn't. Oh, is it? No, wait, let's look. There is. Oh yeah, the scoring sheet's in there. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the scoring sheet last season, but I like that it's been repeated because I like the fact that you've got something you can just photocopy and play. All right, so definition of battle-ready painting. And let's go check out the new 6 objectives. So not the Not the table 1s, but the table 2s, because those are what's new here. So those are the 6 new ones. And then I will just say now for the people in the back that the core rules are, of course, reprinted again. I don't have the physical book in my hands. I still hope and pray it is this beautiful lay flat spiral bound hardcover masterpiece that has been made the last couple seasons. I still bemoan the fact that 40K doesn't have this amazing sort of like layout anymore. But the so far so good, but just by looking at this. All right, so let's jump in and have a look at objectives. So Prize of Galletian stayed the same. That's table 1. Table 2, the Realmstone Cache. Nope, that's Battle Plan 2, table 1. That's the same. Battle Lines Drawn's the same. Because it's all of table 2 that's changed. The Nidus Paths is the same. There might, okay, and sorry, I shouldn't say they're the same. There might be some subtle differences and some rewording in here. Other people will probably pick it up faster than I will, but the core missions, what I looked through, I didn't notice anything on first blush. I didn't pay a ton of time like diving into it, but I wanted to make sure that the missions themselves were roughly structured the same, and they are roughly structured identically. All right, let's have a look and get to what page do they start on. I'm gonna go back to the thing because I'm scrolling. I can't just like flip. This is new and challenging. It starts on page. Oh, and I'm gonna check over the I want to check over the endless spell updates as well, because there are a couple. It's on page 34. All right, we're into... It's having a hard time loading. Okay. It's having a hard time loading this. I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to pause this. All right, so mission 1 in table 2 is called Only the Worthy. Sometimes the gaze is carried by an example of a handful of individuals. So this is when it leads into the Galletian Champions stuff. And it feels like the ones that lean into the theme are all in table 2, as they were previous edition. So this one is a score 1 if you hold at least 1, score 1 if you hold 2, score 1 if you hold more, score 2 if you do your battle tactic. The table is all half and half territory, so no man's land in this one, straight across the middle, and then there is a cross shape, so north, south, east, west, in the cardinal points of like the folding paper mat. It's hard to not be able to show you, but there's 4 objectives basically: hold 1, 2, hold more, and then tactic. The special rule is Shrines of Conquest. While there's any Galletian champions within 6 of an objective, only Galletian champions can contest. In addition, no more than 1 from the same army can contest the same objective at the same time. So basically, it's like a contest of champions style thing. And it does mean that if you're playing that mission and you didn't take any Galletian champions, if you just said, screw this realm, screw this like battle pack, yeah, you're gonna get walked over because they're just gonna hold the zone and jam bodies in front of you and score every round. The second one is Path of a Champion. So it is kind of table quarters-y, so it's attacker defender territory, right, like this, and then the center of each of those 4 quadrants has an objective in it. Score 1, hold 1, hold 2, hold more, and then 2 for your strategy again. Special rule for this one: at the start of your hero phase, if any friendly Galletian champions are contesting an objective that's wholly outside your territory, you can pick 2 battle tactics to complete instead of only 1. So can pick 2 instead of 1. And you get 2 per round for each one you complete. So if you're holding the 2 no man's land quarter ones, you can then score 4 from tactics each round. That one's interesting. I don't know. I mean, that skews the scoring quite a bit potentially, because you can score battle tactics on turn 1. I don't know how you would. I guess you could. It's at the start of your hero phase. And there's no way to have hero. Well, you may be able to have heroes outside your deployment zone too. Like a hunter could maybe do it. I'm trying to think of who you could start the first turn outside your deployment phase. You guys will know better than me all the armies, but there's got to be some armies that can start heroes outside the deployment zone that would then let you score 4 in the first turn, and then 4 every turn after that. That's an additional 10 VPs basically that you could get over the course of the game. So that one's interesting. The Jaws of Galette, or Gallet, if you're using like different French pronunciation. This one is hold 1, hold 2, hold more, score 2 for your thing as well. And this one has like L-shaped deployment. So again, because you're using like the folding card usually I mean, visually on the table here, it's all divided into sections. It's an L across one side and then a complementary L. And then there's a kind of a dice 5 of objectives across the middle of the table in all the central zones. So 5 objectives. The Swallowed by the Caverns is the special rule. At the start of each battle round, after priority has been determined, the player taking the second turn can pick one objective on the battlefield to be swallowed by the caverns, and it's removed. So this is kind of like what season was it? It was like 2 or 3 seasons ago, where there was like a Scorched Earth one where you started removing objectives. So player 2 is going to dictate the battlefield basically, and they swallow up. So there's less over the course of the game. So that means that starting on turn 2, there'll be one final objective that you're fighting for by the end of the game, because player 2 is going to keep killing them. And then the next one is called, this is chugging my PDF reader because this is just a Chromebook. It's Ours for the Taking. So this one is not quite an L, it's almost battle line, so it's almost just opposing deployment zones, but there's one up on either side, like opposite to each other, and then 3 objectives, 1, 2, 3, like a dice 3 going down it. Hold 1, for holding your home objective, which is the one touching your territory. Hold 1 if you control the central one in no man's land, and then hold 2 if you're holding the one that's farther away. I love when they get away from the hold 1, hold 2, hold more. So you start with 1 in your territory, basically touching it. You start with 1 in the middle, it's no man's land, you have an enemy one, and they're in like a diagonal line, and it's a potential 4 per round if you hold all 3. And then score 1 victory point if you control the central objective, and the objective is contested by a friendly Galletian champion. So if the middle one's held by the hero, you get a bonus point. Score 2 for your battle tactic. There's no special rules apart from that, just that it's not the usual hold 1, hold 2, hold more. I'm a big fan of that one, Ours for the Taking. I feel like that's a good, like, take out the Galletian champion part of that. That's a good, like, core mission. Table 2, battle plan 5, twists and turns. So again, it's a diagonal, but it's 5. So starting with all the way in the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 objectives, and then L-shaped deployment zones opposite each other again, or territories rather. The objectives used for this battle are either active or inactive. At the start of the battle, all objectives are active. And then changing priorities at the end of each player's turn before any victory points have been scored, the player whose turn it is taking must roll a dice for every active objective. Add 1 to the roll if the objective is contested by a Galletian champion that are friendly. On a 1 to 3, it becomes inactive. On a 4+, it remains active. So when you're holding stuff, you have to basically keep it going by having champions there. At the start of each player's hero phase, the player's turn it is taking rolls a dice for each inactive objective they control. On a 1 to 3, it remains inactive. Add 1 if you have any Galletian champions. On a 4 more, it becomes active once again. I don't love this mission because I don't love the fact that you could just get screwed out of your objectives working all the time. And then it's hold 1, hold 2, hold more, 2 for your tactics. Twists and turns, I don't know. I think it's fun and different. It would be cool for a one-off game. I don't think this is a great tournament game because, like, there's some guys that just get a pocket full of bad luck, and then that mission you could just feel betrayed by something you couldn't control. I guess that's my criticism of that mission is you want to feel like you have agency when you're playing a tournament pack. This is a tournament pack. This isn't a for funsies narrative like pack. You've created a mission now where chance could just like wreck a top table. That would just suck. Roll 10 ones over the course of the game and not be able to hold any objectives or score any points. So, not a fan. The odds say it won't happen, but it can happen. You've kind of got a fault point in there. And then the last one, position over power. This one is kind of a weird deployment. It's all the way up to half on either side, but the no man's land is 2 strips down either edge. So it's very like Battle for the Pass, if that makes sense, but the no man's land is the walls of the cavern on either side. It's hold 1, hold 2, hold more, 2 for your battle tactic, and then score 1 victory point if you control any flank objectives controlled by Galletian veterans. So there's basically in the center of the 2 like opposing things, there's an objective, and then all the way out at either table edge is 2 other ones. And you're trying to send champions out to hold them over the course of the game for the bonus point. So 4 overall. There's no central objective. It's just basically a north, south, east, west. But the east, west are the table edges, and the north, south is just in the center of the 2 territories. And that's it. Those are the 6 new ones. I mean, cool. Now, the relevant publications, if you're looking for a what is currently in rotation, this is what is legal for this Pitch Battle season. The core book, Pitch Battle Season 2, Pitch Battle Profile Season 2, and then Battle Tomes, Beasts of Chaos, Blades of Khorne, Cities of Sigmar, Daughters of Cain, Disciples of Tzeentch, Flesh Eater Courts, Fireslayers, Gloomspite Gitz, Hedonites, Idnith, Caradron, Lumineth, Maggotkin, Night Haunts, Ogrimmar Tribes, Orc Warclans, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, Seraphon, Skaven, Slaves to Darkness, Sons of Behemat, Soulblight Gravelords, Stormcast Eternals, Sylvaneth, and then the expansions Wrath the Ever-Chosen, Broken Realms Morathi, Broken Realms Teclis, Broken Realms Be'lakor, Broken Realms Kragnos, and Season of War Thondia. And then finally, the Compendium Monstrous Arcana, excluding Warhammer Legends Arcana and White Dwarf Battletome updates, are the things that are legal. I'm not sure what that excludes because it sounds pretty comprehensive, but it's probably some campaign books or like Malign Sorcery or something like that that doesn't work. And then Battle Scrolls are... the rules in Battle Scrolls will always be used at official Warhammer Age of Sigmar events. Yeah, and that's it. That's basically your publication list. So I'm going to briefly go through, and I looked through. I didn't see any changes. I think it might be Purple Sun got changed, was the big one. But for the most part, everything in here seemed relatively similar. I do believe Purple Sun is the one that changed the most. Horrorghast. Because some of these spells honestly need like an upgrade. Same. Pendulum. Same. Cogs. Same. The Maelstrom and the Life Swarm. Same and same. Geminids are the same. I do believe it's just the swords. Malevolent Maelstrom's the same. Palisade's the same. Purple Sun of Shyish. Subtract 1 from save rolls. No, it looks like it's the same. Praetorian can move 8 and can fly. Subtract 1 from save rolls for attacks that target units within 6 of this endless spell. In addition, roll a dice for each unit within 3 inches of the endless spell after it's moved and a one model slain. Yeah, it's the same. It's all the same. And that's core rules, and that's it. So, what do I think about this pack? I mean, obviously kind of where this is all going is they're trying to shift the feature onto, not like an underlooked, but sort of a, what's the word? A not to the forefront, not being seen in lots of lists, except in like specific cases, unit type in Age of Sigmar. I think that's a good thing. I think people playing with more of their collection's a good thing. I own lots of baby heroes I don't use a lot unless it's in like specific armies. I think some armies benefit from this more than others because you just have to take those heroes anyway. So like my Gutbusters army for my ogres doesn't really change the army. They just get a bunch of like sort of, wow, this scenario really plays into me all of a sudden because I'm like at the tippy top edge of what a hero of this like weight class looks like. But I like that because other game systems that I really enjoy, like Infinity does this, where they try and take units and unit types and put them to the forefront and just let you play with them for a bit and feel what it's useful to do. I do like the Warhammeriness of it. I like the Heroes and Bodyguards thing. It really did like take some getting used to be able to always target characters in Age of Sigmar. And so a little bit of that like, no, these guys are like lost in a unit being protected by their bodyguards. Coming back into the mix, I feel is cool, and I really like that they rolled over the Galletian veterans as a battalion, like a core battalion, to mean that you can still get that kind of like pylon and rock throw thing. It just speeds the game up. It's weird because 40k uses no flow through damage, but has that like pylon rock attack mechanic, whereas AOS doesn't have that pylon rock throw mechanic for like big units, but does use flow through damage, and I feel like putting them together makes the game. It's just a streamlined like damage allocation system and just removes steps. I like things to be decisive. I like combats to be decisive. And and it's just it's a smoother like gameplay experience. I like the enhancements a lot. I think it's cool. There is obviously, I think, some that are maybe a bit better than others. And I like the grand strategies because it felt like you could pick one that kind of fit the way your army plays and the way it feels. So far so good. I'm excited to write some lists with like building this in mind, and I want to play through the 6 new ones. Obviously we played through the 6 old ones, but maybe next time Nick comes in to play some AOS, we'll think about playing like 2 in a day, and we'll get through all in like 3 visits or 3 like trips down to play some games, 3 games days. We can play through like all 6 and try them out. Because I think it like at 1,000 points, having enough heroes to play the missions might be hard, but at 2,000 points, I think it's fine. Again, this is a bit what happened with the 40k new 4-sword chart. I feel like the 1,000-point games are kind of an afterthought because I think that the game really is pushed to that 2,000-point level because you might just be, in those 6 final missions, you might just be priced out of even competing if all of a sudden you lose your 3 heroes or whatever that you can maximum have that are Galletian Champions really early, and then the game just spirals out of control. Like it goes to where you can't score anymore because he still has champions left and you can't kill them because they're behind a wall of dudes. And then he's contesting the objectives or whatever the other mechanics are where it's like mechanically tied to having the champion still alive. And some armies are just gonna have glassy champions, which is gonna make it hard for them to compete. So while I appreciate the effort, I think there is gonna be some players who play this pack and go, my 5 wounds, 5+ save hero doesn't do so great at this. And then all of the ones that could possibly like actually compete at this don't have like the damage output to compete at this. So I feel like there's armies that are gonna need to take the 5+ ward and the 3+ come back to life with D3 wounds, and armies that don't. And that's why those enhancements are in there. Because I'm looking at it from like the top end where I'm like, oh, these make my guys who are good better. And then the bottom end is like, oh, the guys that don't have any built-in healing or X or Y like damage output, they're gonna really struggle at this and get their teeth kicked in a whole bunch, and it's gonna be an uphill battle for them. So I'm trying to look at it from both sides of the fence. I think it's cool to put them into the forefront. I think that certain armies are gonna have to really build into this season. But I like change. I like not playing the same standing in circles, pushing buttons game all the time. And while this doesn't change that much, because we're still standing in circles, pushing buttons, and it feels kind of League of Legends-y still, playing AOS, at least we're doing it with different things, and it's kind of gonna create like magical moments, hopefully, not magical moments, but like at least memorable moments over the course of the game. So there you go. Big thanks for watching. There's my GMG review of the Season 2 of the General's Handbook with its focus on champions. We'll see you for more of these in the future. Thought I'm Ash. Have a good day. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continue to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching. It really does help out, and happy gaming.